Now, this is what your file will look like once you've laid out all of your pipes. Okay, and you'll note that we have our pipes moving through the center of each one of our ribs, totally piercing through the wall, so it's going to make a nice complete cut. We're not going to have any of those artifacts that we get from the cut my ribs script. Okay, and here I noticed a little problem here, but it's a really quick fix. And this is one of the nice things about layer management. If I looked at this and I were to run this the way that it's laid out here, my pipes wouldn't be cut in the way that I want them. I actually want the opposite thing. I actually want these notched in so that I can slide these in, and I want the vertical ribs sliced on the outside so that they notch that way. And that's a pretty straightforward fix. I know that I want these ribs, the blue ones right here, to actually notch this surface. So I can just go to this layer right here and color code that maroon. Not that it, right? And now I want to change this maroon layer to blue. Okay, and that's what I want. Okay, I want these cut on the outside there, and those cut on the inside so that it notches together very, very easily. And that's a really quick fix. Okay, now let's cut some ribs. Okay, now what we can do, we want to notch our vertical surfaces. Let's turn off for now. We're going to turn off our intersection curves because those aren't necessary. And I'm actually going to turn off. I'm actually going to turn off. We're going to do the vertical ones first. So I'm going to turn off the blue ones. And let's make the radial ribs the active layer so that I can turn off my vertical ribs. Okay. And I can also turn off my vertical pipes. And I want to intersect these on the inside. That's the intersection that I want. Okay. And so now, what I want to do, I want to split these. I want to split these. And so I can type in my split command. And it asks me to select the objects to split. Okay, and I want to split. And let's minimize this window right here. Zoom out here. And I can actually just sweep these all from the bottom, like so. And that selects those. That's one way to do it. And select my cutting objects. Okay, now the cutting objects are all these pipes. And this is where your layer management comes in really handy. I can come down here to this layer, select all those objects. Those are my cutting objects. And those are now split. Let me turn off my pipes here. Okay, I'm going to turn off my pipe layer. Let's go up here to my rib layer. I'm going to turn off my pipes. And you'll notice that these are all notched. But they're split, which means that there's still the notch spaces that are left in there. And I'll show you how to get rid of those. I can select all of these, like so, on the bottom. Right? And then I can do a edit, select object, invert, and it selects all my cut notches, and I can just delete those. And so now I have all of my vertical notches done, and you notice that I don't have any of those weird artifacts. That is what we want right there. Okay, so now let's go to our let's make our vertical ribs the active layer. We're going to turn off those. We don't need those anymore. And we're going to turn on our pipes here, like so, right? And we're ready to split these. And I'm going to use my top window for this operation. And actually, let's do it this way, because we're layer managers now. We're expert layer managers, right? And so I'm going to type in my split command. Okay, select the objects to split. The objects that I want to split are my vertical ribs, so I'm going to select all of those. Oops. It selects those, and I'll hit enter. Select my cutting objects, which are my vertical pipes. And it's running the split command. Okay, those are split. I can now go back up to my ribs layer, and I'm going to turn off my pipes, and you can see that those have been split. Okay, let's do a little cleanup here. I'm going to select this, being careful not to get it in my notches. I'm going to select those so you notice that all my notches are open. I'm going to go to Edit, select Objects, Invert, selects all my notches, and now I can just delete those, right? And those are ready to go, okay? And I can turn on my radial ribs, and that's my model ready to go, okay? Now I have my model. And okay, now our intersection cuts, waffle cuts have been made. Our half lap intersections have been made. Our model's looking good. Okay, and now we're coming to the last step. We're rounding third base on our way home. We need to massively unroll this. We're going to use our Massive Unroll script to lay this out properly for laser cutting. Okay, and that's a straightforward process that you should all be familiar with. Let's start out before we begin. We're going to create 2 new layers. Okay, we're going to call one our vertical, curves. Okay, and we're going to paint this layer magenta. Okay, I'm going to create a new layer, and we're going to call this our R curves, our radial curves. Let's do it since we're, and we're going to paint that one also is going to be magenta, because everything's going to be predominantly an exterior cut, and we can handle the labeling. We know how to redo the labeling. Okay, so if we're going to start with our radial ribs, okay, we're going to start by cutting out our radial ribs. Let's turn off, and actually let's make our radial curves our current layer. We want to make that our current layer, and we want to turn off our vertical ribs because we don't want to see that. We just want to deal with these, and our current layer is going to be our radial, because that's where we want our curves to end up on this magenta layer. Now let's go back to our work window, okay, so that we can see this from the top view, which will help us with our selection. And let's drag in our Massive Unroll script. We select the object to unroll. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 8. We press enter. We give it our ID. We're going to call it R. I'm going to hit enter. And as you can see, it unrolls those onto, as curves, onto our scene. Now, one of the things that we know that we want to do, let's maximize, let's do some quick cleanup work, and we'll finish off the rest of it. Everything is, right now, it's magenta, right? As you remember, we want to select all of these. Shift-Control-G to ungroup. Just select our objects on top. Apply our scoonch modifier to move them up slightly vertically. We're going to sweep along the bottom here, and we're going to change. We're going to use our properties value to change the display color to red, and then we're going to explode them so that they become circular hatches that we can then move into our objects, but that you can do on your own. I'm not going to waste time in this tutorial going over that. That has been covered previously. So now that that's done, we can now we can go up to our radial ribs layer, make that active, turn off those curves because we don't need them anymore. And actually now at this point we want to turn on our vertical ribs. Okay, and we can turn off our radial ribs, and we can bring this up here, and we want to be able to look at it in all three windows, because now we want to unroll those, and we bring those over, and we start from the bottom, selecting in order towards the top. Like so. And we'll make that curved layer the active layer so it lands on the magenta layer. Want to make the top window active. So you always unroll in the top, give it an ID, and these will be called our V ribs. Hit enter. Those are unrolled now in order. And we select them all. Shift Control G to ungroup. Select the top ones. Scooch those up like so. Select all my text. Change the display color to red. Explode them into curves. And now that's it. You're good to go. You're ready to go. And we can come back here and we can turn those off so that now in our perspective window we see that we have our ribs there, we have our radial ribs there, and we have our, zoom out, we have our vertical sections there, and we have our horizontal sections there, all on their own separate layers, laid out nice so that we could work with them. And that completes our workflow on the pipes used to create our half lap joints. And I want to remind you why we do this, because now those are nice clean ribs. Okay, those are good ribs. Let's turn these off and let's look at the curves, which is, it's sort of like a, you have to balance the time savings. Like, we have no work to go back and clean up. Those are clean, perfect half lap cuts. We don't have to do any line extensions. We didn't have to go back and check on the direction of our rib cuts. And this gives you ultimate control over how you generate your half lap intersections, which is what you want when you are doing digital fabrication. Okay, and there's our intersection pipes, and we want to look at our pipes there, and there you have it. That's the workflow, and that's our model, and that brings this tutorial to an end.